The judge's gavel came down with a sound that echoed through my entire body. The restraining order is hereby made permanent. I watched my father's face drain of color across the courtroom, watched my mother collapse into sobs in the gallery behind him, and felt absolutely nothing. No guilt. No regret. Just a profound, bone-deep relief that I'd finally stopped letting them destroy me. But let me take you back to where this all started, because the moment that changed everything happened 3 days before I sent that $1. My name is Freya, and I'm 29 years old. I live in a small 2-bedroom house in Portland, Oregon, with the most incredible 5-year-old boy the world has ever known. His name is Oliver, and he has his father's dark curls and my stubborn determination, though his father has never met him and never will. When I told Marcus I was pregnant 6 years ago, he was gone within a week. No conversation. No forwarding address. Just gone. Looking back now, that abandonment was probably the kindest thing he ever did for us. What wasn't kind was how my own family treated Oliver's existence like a shameful secret they had to tolerate rather than a grandchild they should cherish. I work as a dental hygienist at a busy practice downtown. It's not glamorous work, but it pays our bills and gives Oliver stability. I built a life for us from absolutely nothing, with zero help from anyone except my best friend Jasmine, who's been my anchor through everything. No family support. No partner. Just me, my son, and the sheer determination not to fail him the way everyone expected me to. 3 days ago was Oliver's 5th birthday party. I'd been planning it for 2 months. I sent beautifully designed invitations to my parents, my older brother Ryan, and my younger sister Madison 6 weeks in advance. Physical invitations, not just a text. I spent hours picking the perfect ones, with superhero designs because Oliver was obsessed with Spider-Man. I called each of them to confirm they received the invitations. I texted reminders 2 weeks before. 1 week before. 3 days before. I even offered to pick them up, even though they all lived within a 20-minute drive of my house. Of course we'll be there, my mother had said on the phone. We wouldn't miss our grandson's birthday. Wouldn't miss it for the world, my father had confirmed. Ryan had texted back, sounds good, see you then. Madison had responded with a string of excited emojis and can't wait. I believed them. God help me, I actually believed them. The party was supposed to start at 2 in the afternoon on Saturday. I'd rented a bounce house that cost me nearly $200, more than I spent on groceries in 2 weeks. I'd ordered a custom Spider-Man cake from the expensive bakery downtown because Oliver had been talking about it for a month. I'd decorated our small backyard myself, staying up until 1 in the morning the night before, stringing lights between the trees and hanging red and blue streamers everywhere. I'd filled goodie bags for all his little friends from preschool, bought presents I couldn't quite afford, and cleaned my house until it sparkled. Oliver woke up that morning with pure joy radiating from his face. Is it my birthday, Mama? Is today really my birthday? It really is, baby. You're 5 years old today. And Grandma and Grandpa are coming? And Uncle Ryan and Aunt Maddie? My heart had clenched even then, some primal instinct whispering that I shouldn't promise him what I couldn't guarantee. But I pushed it away. They said they're coming, sweetheart. I can't wait to show Grandpa my new bike. And I want to show Uncle Ryan how high I can jump on the trampoline now. The bike had been my big gift to him. I'd saved for 4 months, putting away $20 or $30 from each paycheck until I had enough. It was royal blue with training wheels and a bell, and Oliver had nearly cried with happiness when he'd unwrapped it that morning. By 1:30, everything was ready. The bounce house was inflated and already drawing curious looks from neighborhood kids. The food was laid out under mesh covers to keep the bugs away. The cake sat in its place of honor on the outdoor table, Spider-Man's face perfectly rendered in frosting. I'd even bought flowers for the tables, a tiny extravagance that made everything look special. Oliver pressed his face against our living room window, watching for cars. Are they here yet, Mama? Not yet, buddy. The party doesn't start for another half hour. By 2 o'clock, his preschool friends started arriving with their parents. Sweet kids named Emma and Jackson and Ava, carrying wrapped presents and wearing party hats. They squealed with delight at the bounce house and immediately kicked off their shoes to jump inside. Their parents chatted with me, complimented the decorations, and remarked on what a beautiful party I'd put together. But no family. No cars pulling into my driveway with familiar faces. Oliver kept running to the window between jumping sessions. Maybe they're just running late, Mama? Maybe so, sweetheart. By 2:30, I called my mother. Straight to voicemail. I called my father. Same thing. I texted Ryan, "Hey, are you guys on your way?" Party started at 2. Read receipts were turned off, so I couldn't even tell if he'd seen it. Madison didn't respond to my text at all. By 3 o'clock, every single one of Oliver's friends had arrived. 8 little 5-year-olds were running around my backyard, playing games and jumping in the bounce house, their laughter filling the air. But the chairs I'd set up for my family sat empty. The extra food I'd prepared specifically because my father liked certain things went untouched. I tried calling again. And again. Nothing. Oliver stopped asking around 3:30. I watched something change in his eyes, watched the light dim slightly. He still played with his friends, still smiled for photos, still participated in the games I'd planned. But every few minutes, his eyes would drift to the empty driveway. To the gate where grandparents and an uncle and an aunt should have walked through. At 4:45, my phone finally buzzed. A text from Madison, "Sorry, something came up. Can't make it." That was it. No explanation. No apology to Oliver. No acknowledgement that she'd confirmed 3 separate times that she'd be here. Just those 6 words. I stood in my kitchen, staring at my phone, feeling something cold and hard settle into my chest. Something came up. After 6 weeks of planning. After multiple confirmations. After watching my son's face fall every time another car drove past without stopping. Something came up. I didn't respond. What was there to say? I went back outside and helped Oliver blow out his candles while his friends sang happy birthday. I took photos of his chocolate-covered smile. I supervised the present opening and made sure every child got a goodie bag. I thanked the parents as they collected their tired, sugar-high children and headed home. I smiled through all of it, played the perfect hostess, the devoted mother. But inside, I was screaming. When the last guest left and it was just Oliver and me in our decorated backyard, surrounded by deflating balloons and abandoned paper plates, my son walked up to me. His voice was so small it broke something inside me. "Mama, did I do something wrong? Is that why they didn't come?" I dropped to my knees and pulled him into my arms so tightly he squirmed. "No, baby. No, no, no. You didn't do anything wrong. Not a single thing. You are perfect and wonderful and this was all about them, not you." But why didn't they come? I had no answer that wouldn't hurt him more. I don't know, Oliver. I honestly don't know. That night, after I'd tucked him into bed and kissed his forehead and promised him that tomorrow we'd ride his new bike together, I sat at my kitchen table and let myself cry. Not quiet, dignified tears. Ugly, shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep and wounded. This wasn't the first time. That was what made it so much worse. This was a pattern I'd been too desperate to see clearly. Last year, they'd also missed Oliver's 4th birthday. My mother had claimed she had a terrible headache. My father said he had to work unexpectedly. Ryan never responded to the invitation at all. Madison had shown up 45 minutes before the party ended, stayed for 10 minutes, and left because she had plans. But 2 weeks later, when Ryan needed $800 for car repairs, my father had called me directly. "Family helps family, Freya. You know that." I'd paid it. I'd actually taken money from my emergency savings and paid it because that's what good daughters do, right? That's what family means. The year before that, when Oliver was 3, They'd all come to his party but left after 15 minutes because Madison wanted to go to the mall and couldn't wait. They hadn't even stayed to watch him blow out his candles. And now this. Complete and total absence. Not even a phone call. Not even an excuse until hours later. I looked around my small kitchen, at the life I'd built with my own 2 hands. The framed photos of Oliver on the walls. The finger paintings he'd made at preschool stuck to the refrigerator with magnets. The carefully budgeted grocery list on the counter. Every single thing here existed because I'd made it happen, because I'd worked and saved and sacrificed. And my family couldn't be bothered to show up for 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon. I thought about my childhood, about growing up as the middle child who was never quite good enough. Ryan was the golden boy who could do no wrong. Madison was the baby who needed protecting and pampering. And I was the reliable one. The responsible one. The one who didn't need attention because I could handle things myself. I was making my siblings' lunches when I was 11 years old while my mother slept in. I was helping Ryan with his homework every night when I was 13 while our parents watched television. When Madison was born and I was 15, I became a third parent overnight. Middle of the night feedings. Diaper changes. Walking the floors with a crying baby so my parents could rest. Freya is so mature for her age, people would say, and my parents would beam with pride. What they meant was, Freya is so useful. I learned not to ask for things. When I wanted to go to junior prom, my mother said we couldn't afford a dress. 3 months later, Ryan got a $700 gaming system for his birthday. When I graduated high school with honors, we had cake at home. When Ryan graduated 2 years later with barely passing grades, they rented out a restaurant and invited 70 people. I thought maybe things would change when I got pregnant with Oliver. I was 23, unmarried, and terrified. But I thought maybe a grandchild would shift something. Maybe they'd show up for him even if they'd never really shown up for me. My mother's first response when I told her I was pregnant, "Oh, Freya. What were you thinking?" My father's response, "I hope you're not expecting us to raise this child for you." They didn't come to any of my prenatal appointments. Didn't help me set up a nursery. Didn't offer financial support or emotional encouragement. When I went into labor 2 weeks early and called my mother in a panic because I was alone and scared, she said she couldn't come to the hospital because she'd promised to take Madison shopping for homecoming dresses. I had Oliver alone. Well, not entirely alone. A night shift nurse named Patricia held my hand through the worst contractions and talked me through the pushing when I thought I couldn't do it anymore. But no family. No one who shared my blood. No one who was supposed to love me unconditionally. After Oliver was born, things improved marginally. They'd visit occasionally, bring small gifts, take photos to show their friends what a beautiful grandson they had. But the fundamental dynamic never changed. Every family gathering was still structured around what Ryan needed, what Madison wanted. Oliver and I were accessories. Afterthoughts. When Oliver was 18 months old and my car broke down, I called my father because I didn't know what else to do. The repair estimate was $900, money I absolutely didn't have. He lectured me for 30 minutes about financial irresponsibility and poor planning before finally agreeing to lend me the money. Lend, not give. I paid him back every penny within 7 months, even though it meant eating rice and beans for dinner most nights and skipping any personal purchases entirely. 2 years later, Ryan totaled his car driving drunk. My father bought him a replacement vehicle outright. $15,000, just like that. Ryan never paid him back. Never even offered. When I asked my mother about the obvious favoritism, she looked at me like I was crazy. Ryan was going through a difficult time. He needed support. And I didn't? I'd asked. I didn't need support when I was raising a baby alone on a hygienist's salary? You've always been so strong, Freya. You don't need help the way Ryan does. That was the narrative they'd constructed. I was strong, which apparently meant I deserved nothing. Ryan was struggling, which meant he deserved everything. I tried to talk to them about it once, about a year ago. I sat them down and explained, as calmly as I could, how the favoritism hurt. How invisible it made Oliver and me feel. How we deserved grandparents and family who actually showed up. My father listened with his arms crossed and his face completely blank. When I finished, he said, "You've always been too sensitive, Freya. We treat all our children exactly the same." My mother nodded. "You're imagining things, sweetheart. We love you all equally." Gaslighting. That's what my therapist called it later. The complete denial of reality, the insistence that my very valid feelings were delusions. After that conversation, I stopped trying to fix the relationship. I maintained basic contact. I sent birthday cards. I showed up to holiday dinners. But I stopped expecting anything. Stopped hoping they'd suddenly see Oliver and me as worth their time and energy. Still, some pathetically hopeful part of me had believed they'd come to his 5th birthday party. I'd told them explicitly how much it meant to Oliver. How he'd been talking about it for weeks. How excited he was to show them his new bike. They couldn't even send a text until the party was half over. Now, sitting at my kitchen table 3 days later, I felt that cold, hard thing in my chest crystallize into something sharp. Something that could cut. My phone buzzed with a text message. My father. "You need to help your brother. Family comes first, Freya." I stared at the screen, reading those words 3 times before my brain could process them. Then another message appeared. "Tyler's graduation party is next month. We need $2,200 to cover the venue and catering. Your mother and I are contributing $1,500. You and Madison should split the rest. Send $2,200 by Friday." The audacity was breathtaking. Actually breathtaking. I sat there struggling to pull air into my lungs. They'd ghosted Oliver's birthday party 3 days ago. Hadn't called. Hadn't apologized. Hadn't acknowledged hurting their grandson. And now my father was demanding $2,200 for Ryan's graduation party as if nothing had happened. The math didn't even make sense. If they were contributing $1,500 and Madison and I were splitting the rest, why did I owe $2,200? But that was typical of my father. Numbers were whatever he needed them to be to get what he wanted. I thought about my savings account. The one I'd been building for Oliver's future, for emergencies, for the security we didn't have because I was doing this alone. $2,200 would obliterate almost a third of it. For a party for my brother. The same brother who couldn't be bothered to show up for my son's birthday. The same brother who'd gotten $15,000 for a car while I'd had to repay $900 for repairs. Something inside me shifted. Something fundamental that had been bending for 29 years finally snapped straight and held firm. I opened my banking app and typed in the amount. $1. In the memo line, I wrote, "Best wishes." My finger hovered over the send button for maybe 10 seconds. 10 seconds where I imagined the consequences. The phone calls. The anger. The accusations. The guilt they'd try to pile onto me. Then I thought about Oliver asking if he'd done something wrong. About his small voice and dimmed eyes. About watching him wait by the window for grandparents who never came. I hit send. The confirmation screen glowed on my phone, payment sent. $1. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I'd never defied my father like this. Not once in my entire life. Growing up, he'd ruled our household with quiet, devastating disapproval. He didn't yell often, but his silence could crush you. His disappointed sighs. His way of looking right through you when you'd let him down. My mother enabled every bit of it, always taking his side, always making excuses. I was the good daughter. The reliable one. The one who showed up and paid up and never, ever complained. Where had it gotten me? Sitting alone at my kitchen table while my son asked if he'd done something wrong. I didn't respond to my father's text. Just let it sit there, seen and unanswered. Let him wonder. The next morning was Sunday. I took Oliver to our favorite park, the one with the huge wooden castle and the swings that go really high. We packed sandwiches and spent 3 hours just being together, just being happy. He showed me how high he could climb now, how fast he could run. His laughter erased some of the heaviness that had settled over me. When we got home that afternoon, I had 17 missed calls. 12 from my father. 3 from my mother. 2 from Ryan. Multiple voicemails and texts. I listened to my father's first voicemail. Freya, I don't see the full payment. There must be a mistake with your bank. Call me immediately. He couldn't even concede that I'd sent exactly what I meant to send. That it wasn't an error but a deliberate choice. The texts escalated from confused to annoyed to angry. Father, what kind of game are you playing? I need that money by Friday. Mother, honey, please call us back. Your father is very upset. Ryan, what the hell, Freya? Dad's freaking out about some payment. What's going on? I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called Jasmine. Are you free tonight? After Oliver goes to bed? I need to talk. Always. Come over. I'll have wine ready. Jasmine had been my best friend since college. We'd met in a biology class, bonded over terrible coffee and worse professors, and somehow stayed close through all the chaos of our 20s. She was the only person who truly understood my family situation because she'd witnessed enough of it firsthand. She'd been at Oliver's birthday party 3 days ago. She'd seen him waiting by the window. She'd helped me hold it together when I wanted to fall apart. That evening, after I'd bathed Oliver and read him 2 bedtime stories and kissed his forehead, I drove to Jasmine's apartment across town. She opened the door before I could knock, 2 glasses of wine already poured. Okay, she said, pulling me inside. What happened? You have that look. What look? The I'm about to do something either brilliant or crazy look. Possibly both. I sat on her familiar couch and told her everything. The text from my father demanding money. The $2,200 for Ryan's graduation party. The complete absence of acknowledgement about missing Oliver's birthday. And then I told her what I'd done. The $1 payment. Jasmine's eyes went huge. You didn't. I did. Oh my God, Freya. That's savage. I love it. She paused. Your father must be losing his mind. 17 missed calls today. Are you going to respond? I don't know yet. But I know I'm done. I'm completely done being the one who bends. Done being the one who pays up and shows up while getting nothing in return. Jasmine raised her wine glass. It's about damn time. We talked for 2 hours. She helped me think through what would come next because there would definitely be consequences. My father didn't handle defiance well. He'd escalate. Try to force compliance. Use whatever leverage he could find. Do they have any actual power over you? Jasmine asked. Anything they can hold over your head? I thought about it. No. I support myself completely. The house is mine. They're not on any of my accounts. They don't have keys. I trailed off. Actually, my father does have a spare key. He insisted on it a few years ago. Said it was for emergencies. Has he ever used it? Twice that I know of. Once he let himself in while Oliver and I were out because he wanted to check on something. Didn't ask permission. Jasmine's face darkened. That's not okay. That's a violation. I know. I didn't fight it because I was trying to keep the peace. Change the locks. What? Change the locks, Freya. Tomorrow. Before he decides to let himself in to confront you. She was right. The thought of my father using that key to get into my house, my safe space, made my skin crawl. Will you come with me? To buy new locks? Absolutely. We'll make a day of it. I left Jasmine's apartment feeling something I hadn't felt in years, supported. Actually supported, not just tolerated. The next morning, Monday, I called in sick to work. I rarely did this, but I needed the day. Jasmine picked me up at 9 after I dropped Oliver at preschool. We went to the hardware store and bought new deadbolts for the front and back doors. The man at the counter, older with kind eyes and rough hands, showed us how to install them. Easy enough, he said. Basic screwdriver, 20 minutes per door. Anyone can do it. Back at my house, I changed both locks. Every turn of the screwdriver felt symbolic. Every old lock removed felt like reclaiming something that had always been mine but I'd given away. When I finished, I stood at my front door and looked at the new brass deadbolt. My house. My locks. My rules. My choice about who entered. My phone buzzed. My father again. Freya, it's been 3 days. I need that money transferred by tomorrow or we can't confirm the venue. Stop playing games. Playing games. As if my entire life wasn't a game to them, one where the rules constantly changed to benefit everyone but me. I texted back, I sent what I could afford. Best wishes to Ryan. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. This happened 5 times before his response came through. What you sent was insulting. Your brother deserves better than your petty behavior. We'll discuss this in person. I'll be by your house tomorrow at noon. My heart rate spiked. Tomorrow was Tuesday. Oliver would be at preschool, which was good. I didn't want him anywhere near whatever confrontation was coming. But I also wasn't going to back down. I texted Jasmine, my father says he's coming here tomorrow at noon. Her response was immediate, want me there? Not yet. But be on standby? Absolutely. Call if you need backup. I can be there in 15 minutes. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining tomorrow's confrontation. My father's anger. The accusations. The guilt-tripping. The threats. But I also kept thinking about Oliver. About his question, did I do something wrong? That thought hardened my resolve every time it started to waver. Tuesday morning, I took Oliver to preschool and came home to wait. I made sure all the curtains were closed. I didn't want my father seeing inside, didn't want him to feel like he had any right to my space anymore. At exactly noon, I heard a car in my driveway. Through the peephole, I watched my father get out. My mother was in the passenger seat, but she stayed there. Typical. She'd let him handle the confrontation, then later claim she'd tried to keep the peace. He walked to my door with the confidence of someone who expected immediate obedience. I watched him knock. Watched him wait. Watched him knock again, harder, more insistent. Then I watched him reach into his pocket and pull out a key. My old key. The one that no longer worked. I watched through the peephole as he inserted it into the lock. Turned it once. Twice. His face registered confusion when the lock didn't budge. He tried again, jiggling the key more forcefully. Nothing. He stepped back, examined the key like it had somehow transformed, then tried again. I could see the exact moment realization hit. His jaw clenched. His face darkened to an angry red. He pounded on the door with his fist. Freya! Open this door right now. I took a deep breath, counted to 5, and opened the door. But I left the chain lock engaged, so only a few inches of space showed between us. Hi, Dad. His eyes went immediately to the chain, then back to me. Fury radiated from every line of his body. What's going on? My key doesn't work. I changed the locks. Complete silence. Stunned, total silence. I watched him process this information. Watched his expression shift from confusion to disbelief to rage. You changed the locks? To your house? Without telling me? It's my house. I can change the locks whenever I want. I co-signed that mortgage. I have a right to access. This was the moment. The moment I'd been building toward without even realizing it. Actually, you don't. I refinanced the house 6 months ago. Your name isn't on anything anymore. Not the deed, not the mortgage, nothing. So no, you have no right to access. I'd never seen my father look so completely shocked. His mouth opened and closed. No words came out. Behind him, I could see my mother getting out of the car, sensing something was very wrong. You refinanced? When? Why wasn't I informed? I wasn't required to inform you. It's my property. Freya, what the hell has gotten into you? First you send an insulting $1 to your brother, now you're changing locks and going behind our backs. I didn't go behind anyone's back. I handled my own business. There's a difference. My mother reached the porch. What's happening? Gary, why are you shouting? Your daughter, my father said, his voice shaking with anger, has apparently lost her mind. She changed the locks and refinanced the house without telling us. My mother's eyes widened. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Hurt? Betrayal? Freya, honey, why would you do that? Because it's my house and I wanted new locks. But your father has always had a key for emergencies. There won't be any emergencies that require him to let himself into my home unannounced. My father stepped closer to the door. I instinctively stepped back, even though the chain held. This is about the money, isn't it? You're throwing a tantrum because I asked you to contribute to your brother's graduation party. You didn't ask. You demanded. And you demanded it 3 days after you all skipped Oliver's birthday party without even a phone call. We explained that, my mother said quickly. I had a migraine, and Ryan? Madison? What were their excuses? Silence. That's what I thought. My father's voice rose. Your brother's graduation is a major milestone. The party is important to him. And my son's 5th birthday wasn't important? That's different. Oliver is just a child. He doesn't understand these things yet. The words hung in the air like poison. Just a child. Doesn't understand. My hand started shaking with rage, but my voice stayed perfectly calm. Get off my property. My father's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? You heard me. This is my house, my property, and I'm asking you to leave. Freya, let's calm down, my mother said, her voice taking on that placating tone I knew so well. We're family. We don't need to be so hostile. You're right. We are family. Which is why you should have shown up for your grandson's birthday. Which is why you should have called to apologize instead of demanding money 3 days later. We're asking for help with a family celebration, my father said. That's what families do. They help each other. Then where was my help when Oliver was born and I was terrified and alone? Where was my help when I was working double shifts just to afford diapers? Where was my help when you made me pay back every penny of that $900 loan while you bought Ryan a $15,000 car? My mother flinched. We've always treated you fairly, that's a lie and you know it. My father's face was pure fury now. How dare you speak to your mother that way? We raised you better than this. Did you? Because from where I'm standing, you raised me to accept scraps while Ryan got everything. You raised me to be useful, not loved. That is not true, my mother said, her voice cracking. We love all our children equally. Then prove it. Show me the bank statements. Every check you've written to Ryan over the past 5 years. Every car payment, every credit card bill, every bailout. Let's add it all up and compare it to what you've given me. Neither of them said a word. That's what I thought. I started to close the door. My father slammed his hand against it. If you don't open this door right now and have a civil conversation, there will be consequences. What consequences? You can't threaten me with the house anymore. You have no power here. We're your parents. We have every right to expect respect and support from our daughter. And I had every right to expect my parents to show up for their grandson's birthday. Guess we're both disappointed. I closed the door. Locked the deadbolt. Engaged the chain. Through the wood, I could hear my father shouting. This isn't over, Freya. You can't treat family this way. I walked to my kitchen and poured myself a glass of water with shaking hands. Outside, I could hear my mother trying to calm him down, their voices gradually fading as they presumably returned to their car. My phone started ringing immediately. My father. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. A text came through. You're making a huge mistake. We're going to fix this whether you like it or not. What did that mean? I stared at the message, unease creeping through my anger. Another text, this time from Ryan. What the hell is your problem? Dad just called me freaking out. You changed the locks on the house he helped you get? That's messed up, Freya. I typed back, the house I bought. That I pay for. That's now entirely in my name. And maybe if you'd shown up for Oliver's birthday, we wouldn't be here. Ryan, Oliver's a kid. He'll have plenty of birthdays. My graduation only happens once. The audacity. The absolute audacity. I didn't respond. Within seconds, my phone rang again. Ryan. I let it go to voicemail. Then Madison called. I declined. A group text appeared, one that included my parents, Ryan, Madison, and me. My father had started it. Family meeting tonight at 6 p.m. at our house. Freya, you need to be there. This behavior stops now. I stared at the message. The presumption that I would just show up, that I would fall in line like always, made my blood boil. I typed, no. Just that one word. Father, this isn't optional. Me, I'm an adult. It's absolutely optional. And I'm declining. Ryan, come on, Freya. Stop being dramatic. Madison, why are you being so difficult? We just want to talk. Mother, please, honey. Let's work this out as a family. I turned my phone on silent and set it face down on the counter. I couldn't deal with this anymore. Not right now. I picked Oliver up from preschool early. We went to the park again, his favorite place, and I pushed him on the swings until my arms ached. His laughter, his joy, his complete innocence reminded me why I was doing this. Not for me. For him. So he'd grow up knowing he deserved better than what I'd accepted. That evening, I checked my phone. 43 missed calls. 67 text messages. The family meeting had apparently happened without me, and they were not happy. Ryan, seriously, you're really not going to show up? Madison, this is so disrespectful, Freya. Mother, we're all here waiting for you. Please reconsider. Father, your absence speaks volumes about your character. I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I made dinner for Oliver, his favorite mac and cheese with cut-up hot dogs, and we ate together at our kitchen table. He told me about a caterpillar he'd found at preschool, how Miss Sarah had said it would turn into a butterfly someday. Just like magic, Mama. Just like magic, baby. After bath time and 2 bedtime stories, I tucked him in. He looked up at me with those big hazel eyes. Mama, are we going to have another birthday party for me? My heart clenched. What do you mean, sweetheart? Like a do-over party. Since Grandma and Grandpa and Uncle Ryan and Aunt Maddie didn't come to the first one. Oh God. Oh God, he'd been thinking about this all week. We already had your party, honey. Remember? All your friends were there, and we had so much fun. Yeah, but I wanted to show Grandpa my new bike. I know you did. Do you think they'll come next year? I wanted to lie. Wanted to protect him from the truth. But I also didn't want to give him false hope, Didn't want him spending the next year anticipating something that might not happen. I don't know, Oliver. But you know what I do know? You are so loved. By me, by Aunt Jasmine, by all your friends, by Miss Sarah at preschool. So many people love you so much. He thought about this, his little face serious. Okay, Mama. Okay. Now get some sleep. We have park day tomorrow, remember? His face brightened. Can we go on the big slide? As many times as you want. After he fell asleep, I went to my room and finally let myself process everything. The confrontation at my door. The group text. The family meeting I'd refused to attend. The 43 missed calls from people who'd never called to check on Oliver after missing his party. My phone buzzed again. My father, last chance. Call me by 9 p.m. tonight or I'm coming to your house tomorrow and we're settling this. It was 8:47. I had 13 minutes to decide if I was going to call him back. I didn't. At 9:16, my father sent one final text, fine. Have it your way. But don't say I didn't warn you. A chill went through me. Warn me about what? I lay in bed that night, anxiety churning in my stomach. What was he going to do? What leverage did he think he still had? The next morning was Wednesday. I dropped Oliver at preschool and went to work. My dental practice was busy, which helped keep my mind occupied. Between patients, I checked my phone compulsively. Nothing from my family. The silence felt ominous. During my lunch break, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Is this Freya? A woman's voice, professional and unfamiliar. Yes. Who's calling? My name is Jennifer, and I'm calling from Child Protective Services. We received a report about your 5-year-old son, Oliver. I'd like to schedule a home visit to follow up on some concerns that were raised. The world tilted. My blood ran cold. My hand clenched around my phone so hard it hurt. What concerns? I can't discuss specifics over the phone, but I assure you this is standard procedure when we receive a report. Would tomorrow afternoon work for a visit? Around 2 o'clock? My mind was racing, screaming. A report. Someone had reported me to CPS. And I knew exactly who. Yes, I managed to say. Tomorrow at 2 is fine. Thank you. I'll see you then. After I hung up, I sat in my car in the parking lot and tried to breathe. Tried not to throw up. Tried to process what had just happened. My father had called CPS on me. He'd actually called Child Protective Services and reported me as an unfit mother because I wouldn't give him money and wouldn't let him control my life anymore. I called Jasmine. She answered on the first ring. He called CPS on me, I said, my voice shaking. My father actually called CPS. What? Are you serious? A caseworker named Jennifer is coming tomorrow at 2 for a home visit. They received a report with concerns about Oliver. That's insane. Freya, Oliver is healthy, happy, well cared for. Anyone with eyes can see that. I know, but I have to prove it now. I have to let a stranger come into my home and inspect how I parent because my father is vindictive enough to weaponize the system against me. Jasmine was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was steel. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to clean your house tonight. Make sure everything is organized, safe, tidy. Tomorrow morning, I'm taking the day off work and coming over early. I'm bringing documentation. What kind of documentation? Oliver's preschool record showing perfect attendance and no concerns. Pictures from his birthday party showing a happy, healthy kid. Character references if you need them. Medical records. Everything. We're going to make it impossible for them to find anything wrong, because there isn't anything wrong. Thank you, I whispered. Jasmine, I don't know what I'd do without you. You're never going to have to find out. And Freya? After this is over, you need to consider a restraining order. Your father has escalated this way beyond normal family drama. She was right. I knew she was right. That night, after Oliver went to bed, I cleaned my house more thoroughly than I ever had. I organized every toy, wiped down every surface, checked that all medications were properly stored and labeled, made sure the refrigerator was full of healthy food. I gathered Oliver's medical records, his preschool reports, his vaccination records, his growth charts from the pediatrician. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined a caseworker taking Oliver away, imagined my father's smug face when he heard. The next day, Thursday, I called in sick to work again. Jasmine arrived at 11 with a folder full of documents. Preschool records, she said, spreading papers across my kitchen table. I called Miss Sarah and explained the situation. She wrote a letter detailing Oliver's development, his social skills, his well-being. She also noted that you're always on time for pickup and drop-off, you attend every parent-teacher conference, and you volunteer for class activities. She did that for me? She was horrified when I told her someone reported you to CPS. She said it's obviously malicious and she'd be happy to testify to that if needed. Tears pricked my eyes. I don't deserve you. Either of you. Yes, you do. Now, I also have photos from the birthday party, your pediatrician's contact information, and a list of character references including me, Miss Sarah, and 3 of your coworkers. At exactly 2 o'clock, Jennifer from CPS arrived. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with kind eyes and a professional demeanor. I invited her in, introduced Jasmine as my friend who was there for moral support. Jennifer walked through my house, making notes on a clipboard. She checked Oliver's bedroom, the kitchen, the bathroom. She verified that cleaning supplies were stored safely, that smoke detectors were working, that the home was clean and well-maintained. Then she asked to speak with Oliver. I'd picked him up from preschool early, explained that a nice lady was coming to visit and ask him some questions. He'd seemed curious but not worried. Hi, Oliver, Jennifer said warmly, sitting on the couch. My name is Jennifer. I just want to ask you a few questions, okay? Okay, he said, climbing up next to me. Do you like living here? Yeah. I have my own room and Mama lets me put up my drawings on the walls. Jennifer smiled. That sounds nice. Does your mom make sure you have food to eat? Uh-huh. We had mac and cheese yesterday. It's my favorite. Does your mom ever hurt you or scare you? Oliver looked confused. No. Mama gives the best hugs. He demonstrated by wrapping his arms around me. I bet she does. Do you go to school? Preschool. Miss Sarah is my teacher. She's really nice and we learned about caterpillars this week. The questions continued for about 10 minutes. Oliver answered each one honestly and cheerfully, completely unaware of how much weight they carried. After Jennifer finished with Oliver, I sent him to his room to play. She sat down across from Jasmine and me at the kitchen table. I'm going to be honest with you, Freya. The report we received alleged neglect, specifically that your child was being denied access to family members and potentially kept in an unsafe environment. Based on what I've seen today and my conversation with Oliver, none of those allegations appear to be true. They're not, I said firmly. Can I ask who made the report? Reports are typically confidential, but I can tell you that the caller identified himself as the child's grandfather. There it was. Confirmation. 4 days ago, I said carefully, police had to remove my father and other family members from my property for trespassing when they showed up unannounced and refused to leave. I have the officer's card and report number if you'd like it. Jennifer's eyebrows rose. I see. That's important context. Jasmine provided all the documentation we'd prepared. Jennifer reviewed everything carefully, the preschool letters, the photos, the medical records, the character references. Finally, she closed her notebook. I'm going to close this case as unfounded. Oliver is clearly well cared for. Your home is safe and appropriate. There's no evidence whatsoever of neglect or abuse. In fact, all evidence points to you being a dedicated, attentive parent. Relief flooded through me so powerfully I felt lightheaded. Thank you. However, I do want to note in my report that this appears to be a malicious complaint related to a family conflict. If your father calls again with similar allegations, that history will be on file. It won't help his credibility. After Jennifer left, I collapsed onto my couch. Jasmine sat next to me and wrapped her arm around my shoulders. You did it. You got through it. He used CPS as a weapon, Jasmine. He tried to have my son taken away because I wouldn't obey him. I know. And that's why you need to protect yourself legally. This isn't going to stop unless you make it stop. File for a restraining order, Freya. Today. She was right. I'd been hesitant because it felt so final, so dramatic. But my father had proven he was willing to go to any length to punish me for defying him. The next morning, Friday, I called a family law attorney. Her name was Rebecca, and she came highly recommended from a coworker whose sister had gone through a difficult custody case. I told Rebecca everything. The pattern of favoritism growing up, the financial manipulation, Oliver's birthday party, the money demand, the confrontation when I'd changed the locks, the group text and family meeting, and finally the CPS report. Rebecca listened without interrupting, taking detailed notes. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me seriously. What you're describing is a clear pattern of harassment and attempted coercion. The CPS call is particularly concerning because it shows escalation to tactics that could have serious consequences for you and your son. You absolutely have grounds for a restraining order. How long does the process take? We can file for a temporary order today, which will go into effect as soon as it's served to your father. Then there will be a hearing within 2 weeks where a judge decides whether to make it permanent. Given the evidence you have, I'm confident we'll get the permanent order. What will it actually do? What are the restrictions? It will legally require your father, and we can include other family members if you want, to stay away from you, your home, your workplace, and Oliver. They won't be allowed to contact you directly or indirectly. If they violate the order, they can be arrested. The thought of my entire family being legally banned from my life felt surreal. But also necessary. Essential, even. Let's start with just my father for now. If the others keep harassing me, I can add them later, right? Absolutely. We'll start with the primary aggressor. We spent the next 2 hours filling out paperwork. Rebecca helped me organize my evidence chronologically, the birthday party invitations and confirmations, the screenshots showing everyone had said they'd attend, the photos of Oliver waiting by the window with timestamps, the money demand text, the hostile messages, the police report, the CPS case number and Jennifer's findings. This is very solid, Rebecca said, reviewing the file. Your father essentially documented his own harassment via text message, which makes our job much easier. When will the order be served? I'll file this afternoon. Service typically happens within 24 to 48 hours. Once he's served with the temporary order, he'll receive notice of the hearing date. I left Rebecca's office feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks: control. I was taking real legal action to protect Oliver and myself. That weekend passed quietly. I spent it with Oliver, just the two of us, doing normal things. We went to the park, made cookies, watched his favorite movies. He was happy and oblivious to the legal wheels I'd set in motion. On Monday afternoon, while Oliver was at preschool, I got a text from Rebecca: "Your father was served an hour ago. Temporary order is now in effect." My phone started ringing almost immediately. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. And again. Finally, I listened to the voicemail. "Freya, what have you done? Your father just got served with some kind of court order saying he can't contact you or see Oliver. This has gone way too far. You need to drop this immediately. Call me back. I deleted the message. Another call came, this time from Madison. Are you serious right now? A restraining order against Dad? Because of what, money? You've officially lost your mind. Mom is hysterical. Fix this. Delete. Ryan texted, I warned you he was planning something. I didn't think you'd go nuclear first. Restraining order? Really? I replied, he called CPS and tried to have Oliver taken away. I'm protecting my son. Don't contact me again. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. I went to work, took care of Oliver, prepared for the hearing with Rebecca. My family tried to contact me through every possible method. My mother created a new email account to send me long messages about how I was destroying the family. Madison showed up at my workplace, forcing my office manager to ask her to leave. Ryan sent letters through the mail. I saved everything. Every email, every attempted contact, every violation of the spirit of the temporary order. Rebecca told me it would all help at the hearing. The hearing was scheduled for a Wednesday morning. I took the day off work and met Rebecca at the courthouse. My stomach was in knots as we waited in the hallway outside the courtroom. Remember, Rebecca said, answer questions directly and honestly. Don't get emotional if you can help it. Just stick to the facts. What if he lies? What if he tells the judge I'm the problem? Then we present the evidence. We have documentation of everything. His words versus your proof. The proof wins. At 9 o'clock, we entered the courtroom. My father was already there with his own attorney, a stern-looking man in an expensive suit. My mother sat in the gallery behind him, her face red and blotchy from crying. Ryan and Madison were there too, both glaring at me with open hostility. I sat at the table with Rebecca and tried to breathe. The judge entered, Judge Patricia Morrison, a woman in her 60s with sharp, intelligent eyes and silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. We're here for a harassment restraining order petition filed by Freya against Gary. Let's begin. Ms. Rebecca, please present your case. Rebecca stood and methodically walked through everything. She presented the text messages demanding money, the photos from Oliver's birthday party with timestamps showing the family never arrived, the police report from when they were removed from my property, the CPS case number, Jennifer's report stating the complaint was unfounded and appeared malicious. Your Honor, Rebecca concluded, the respondent has engaged in a clear pattern of harassment, escalating to the use of government agencies as weapons of retaliation when the petitioner established reasonable boundaries. This behavior poses a threat to both the petitioner and her minor child. Judge Morrison reviewed the evidence carefully. Then she looked at my father's attorney. Counselor, your response? My father's attorney stood. Your Honor, this is a family dispute that's been blown out of proportion. Mr. Gary is a concerned father and grandfather who's been unfairly cut off from his family. The petitioner changed locks on a home he helped her obtain, refused to contribute to a family celebration, and has alienated him from his grandson. He made one call to CPS out of genuine concern, not malice. One call to CPS with allegations that were investigated and found to be completely unfounded, Judge Morrison interrupted, looking at the documents. That's in the record. Perhaps he was mistaken about, or perhaps, as the CPS investigator specifically noted, it was a malicious complaint related to a family conflict. Judge Morrison's voice was crisp. Continue, but let's stay focused on facts, not speculation. The attorney shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, families have disagreements. That doesn't automatically warrant a restraining order. Mr. Gary has never physically threatened his daughter or grandson. Physical threats aren't the only grounds for a restraining order. Harassment, intimidation, and filing false reports with government agencies all qualify. Does your client wish to testify? Yes, Your Honor. My father took the stand. He placed his hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. His attorney began questioning him. Mr. Gary, can you describe your relationship with your daughter prior to this conflict? I've always tried to be a good father. I helped her when she was a young single mother. I co-signed her mortgage so she could get a home for her and her son. I've supported her financially and emotionally. And what changed that relationship? She became hostile when I asked her to contribute to her son's, her brother's, graduation party. It was a reasonable request, family supporting family, but she refused and sent $1 as an insult. Why did you go to her home with other family members? We were concerned about her behavior. She'd changed the locks without warning, was refusing to communicate normally. We wanted to check on our grandson, make sure he was okay. And the call to Child Protective Services? My father's face reddened slightly. I was genuinely worried. She was acting erratically, cutting off family for no reason. I thought maybe my grandson wasn't being cared for properly. I see now I was wrong, but at the time I was just a concerned grandfather. Rebecca stood for cross-examination. Mr. Gary, you testified that you've always been a supportive father. Is that correct? Yes. Were you present at your grandson Oliver's 5th birthday party on April 17th? His jaw tightened visibly. No, I couldn't attend. Why not? I had other obligations. What obligations specifically? I don't recall the details. It was weeks ago. You don't recall what was so important that you missed your grandson's 5th birthday party despite confirming multiple times that you would attend? Silence. Your wife also didn't attend. Your son Ryan didn't attend. Your daughter Madison didn't attend. What were their obligations? We're a busy family. Too busy to send even a text message until 4 hours after the party started? Too busy to call a 5-year-old child you'd promised to see? More silence. Mr. Gary, how much money have you given your son Ryan over the past 5 years? I don't see how that's relevant. Your Honor, it goes directly to the pattern of treatment and the context of the money demand, Rebecca said. I'll allow it, Judge Morrison said. My father shifted in his seat uncomfortably. I've helped him when he needed it. How much, approximately? Maybe $25,000 or $30,000 over the years. And how much have you given Freya in that same period? She's needed less help. Please answer the question with a number. I lent her $900 once. She paid it back. So you've given your son $30,000, but lent your daughter $900, which she fully repaid. Is that accurate? Ryan has faced more challenges. Did those challenges include you purchasing him a $15,000 vehicle after he totaled his previous car driving under the influence? My father's attorney objected, but Judge Morrison overruled. Answer the question. Yes, I bought him a car. He needed transportation. Did he pay you back? No, and yet you required Freya to pay back $900 while working full-time and raising a child alone. Does that seem equitable to you? My father couldn't answer. Rebecca continued her cross-examination systematically, dismantling every claim he'd made. By the time she finished, he looked defeated. Judge Morrison called a brief recess. When we reconvened 15 minutes later, she delivered her ruling. I've reviewed all evidence presented today. The pattern is unmistakable. Mr. Gary has engaged in harassment, trespassing, and filing a malicious report with Child Protective Services when the petitioner established reasonable boundaries. The temporary restraining order is hereby made permanent for a period of 4 years. Mr. Gary is prohibited from contacting Freya or Oliver directly or indirectly, from coming within 500 feet of their home, Freya's workplace, or Oliver's school. Any violation will result in immediate arrest and potential contempt charges. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. I heard my mother gasp behind me. Madison started crying. Ryan put his head in his hands. But all I felt was an overwhelming wave of relief so powerful it nearly brought me to my knees. Outside the courtroom, Rebecca shook my hand firmly. You did great. You protected your son. That's what matters most. Thank you. For everything. Document everything going forward. If he violates the order even once, report it immediately. Some people need to test boundaries. Don't let him. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in months. The restraining order was permanent. For years of legally enforced peace and protection. That evening, after I'd picked Oliver up from preschool and we'd had dinner together, I got a text from an unknown number. You won today, but you lost your family. Hope you're happy. Clearly my father, using someone else's phone to circumvent the order. I forwarded it to Rebecca with a note, violation? Her response came quickly, yes. Forward to police immediately. Keep all documentation. I sent the information to the police department and blocked the unknown number. In the weeks and months that followed, my father tried twice more to contact me through intermediaries. Each time I documented it and reported it. On the second violation, he spent a night in jail for contempt of court. After that, the contact stopped entirely. My mother sent one final email through yet another new account, begging me to reconsider, to think about family, to forgive and forget. I didn't respond. I simply forwarded it to Rebecca and blocked that address too. Madison tried to approach me at the grocery store once. I calmly reminded her that while she wasn't on the restraining order, she could be added if she continued harassing me. She left immediately. Ryan stopped trying to contact me altogether. The consequences for my family were exactly what they'd earned. My father's reputation in their community suffered significantly when word spread about the restraining order. My mother, who'd enabled his behavior for decades, found herself increasingly isolated from the social events she'd always controlled and enjoyed. Ryan's graduation party happened, but it was small and quiet. Apparently no one else wanted to contribute the money I'd refused, and my parents had already spent too much on legal fees. Madison, who'd always relied on our parents for financial support, had to get a second job when they told her they could no longer help her as much. They'd built their lives on a foundation of control, favoritism, and manipulation. When I removed myself from that toxic equation, the whole structure began crumbling. As for Oliver and me, we thrived in ways I never imagined possible. Oliver started kindergarten that fall and made wonderful friends. I got a promotion at work with a significant raise. Jasmine and I took Oliver on adventures every weekend, the zoo, children's museums, hiking trails, the beach. We built a life surrounded by people who actually showed up, who actually cared, who chose us every single day. On Oliver's 6th birthday, we had another party. Smaller this time, more intimate. Just his school friends, Jasmine and her partner, a few co-workers I'd grown genuinely close to, Miss Sarah from his old preschool, and 2 of his teachers from kindergarten who'd become important figures in his life. No family drama. No waiting by the window. No broken promises. Just a joyful kid blowing out candles, surrounded by people who loved him unconditionally. As I watched him laugh with his friends, his face covered in chocolate frosting, completely happy and secure, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The pain of finally seeing my family clearly for who they really were. The fear of standing up to decades of manipulation and control. The relief of legal protection. The profound peace of boundaries that were actually enforced and respected. Sometimes revenge isn't about grand gestures or dramatic confrontations. Sometimes the most powerful form of revenge is simply refusing to play by rules that were designed to keep you small and compliant. Sometimes it's choosing yourself and your child over people who never truly chose you. Sometimes it's realizing that the love you were desperately trying to earn was never going to be freely given, and deciding you don't need it anymore. I spent 29 years trying to earn my family's love, trying to be good enough, reliable enough, useful enough to matter to them. It took losing them completely to realize I'd never needed their love in the first place. What I needed was self-respect. Boundaries. The courage to protect my son from the same patterns that had damaged me. The strength to walk away from people who saw me as a tool rather than a daughter. And honestly, I've never been happier. Neither has Oliver. That $1 I sent wasn't just a payment. It was a message. It was me finally assigning the exact value to their demands that they'd always assigned to my worth, almost nothing. But unlike them, I knew my actual value. I knew Oliver's value. And I was done accepting anything less than what we deserved. If you're reading this and seeing yourself in my story, if you're the reliable one, the useful one, the one who always gives while others always take, please hear me, you deserve better. You deserve people who show up. Who keep promises, especially to children. Who don't weaponize love or use family as a tool for control. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. Protecting yourself and your children isn't selfishness. Refusing to accept mistreatment isn't a character flaw. It's survival. It's self-respect. It's love, real love, the kind that protects and nurtures rather than manipulates and diminishes. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep. Moments I questioned everything. Times I felt overwhelmed by guilt they'd spent decades conditioning me to feel. But every time I doubted myself, I thought about Oliver asking if he'd done something wrong. I thought about his small voice and dimmed eyes. And I knew I'd made the right choice. You can't fix people who don't think they're broken. You can't earn love from people who see you as a transaction rather than a human being. You can't light yourself on fire to keep others warm, especially when they won't even acknowledge you're burning. All you can do is save yourself. Protect the people who depend on you. Build a life with people who actually value you. And sometimes, the best revenge is simply living well, happily, authentically, freely, without the people who tried to keep you trapped. That courtroom moment when the judge's gavel came down and made the restraining order permanent? That wasn't just a legal victory. It was the moment I finally, completely freed myself from a lifetime of manipulation. That $1? Best money I ever spent.